It's that lake effect snow that could turn lakeshore counties of Winter Storm Bennett into Blizzard Bennett. Meteorologist Christian Palacio is currently on the Fox 11 weather deck. Christian, what needs to happen to be considered a blizzard?
Yeah, Patrick, I spoke with one of the meteorologists at the National Weather Service office here in Green Bay, and they went ahead and told me what conditions need to happen in order for blizzard warnings to be issued.
What is a blizzard? What are some of the criteria that is needed to issue blizzard warnings?
The big difference between a blizzard warning and a winter storm warning is that in a blizzard warning, we have sustained winds of around 35 miles per hour, but it's really the impacts.
Meteorologist Kurt Kotenberg of the National Weather Service office in Green Bay says it doesn't take much snow to cause near whiteout conditions for at least 3 hours.
The big impacts is that we have those near zero visibilities, like you can't see across the street. And to get that, you don't necessarily need to have like 2 or 3 or 4 inches of snow. It just takes, like an inch or two, maybe a little bit of snow. Then those impacts lead to obviously very bad traffic conditions and bad travel conditions.
And the Weather Forecast Office has mentioned the Friday system could bring blizzard-like conditions.
During the evening, we're looking at temperatures getting down into the 20s. So we'll have the light, fluffier blowing snow. And we'll also increase winds up to 40, 45 miles per hour at that time.
Northeast Wisconsin may not get blizzards every year, but our neighboring states to the west seem to have them more often. Why is that the case?
When you get out to the plain states, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, there's a lot more open, flatter fields. If you get 30-mile-an-hour winds there, there's nothing to block the winds. Here we have the trees and the hills, so a lot of things that kind of block the winds, block the snow.
And the last time we had blizzard conditions here in Green Bay was a blizzard Evelyn, and that was back in mid-April 2018. Brought us over 24 inches of snow in Green Bay, while other portions of our area saw about 30 inches.
All right, Christian Palacio reporting tonight from the weather deck.
Kurt, if you can explain to me what is a blizzard, what are some of the criteria that is needed to issue blizzard watches and warnings?
Sure. Yeah. First off, we don't issue blizzard watches anymore. Yeah, so the Weather Service has phased out issuing blizzard watches. We now do winter storm watch or winter storm warning or blizzard warning. So with a blizzard warning, the big difference between a blizzard warning and a winter storm warning is that in a blizzard warning, we have sustained winds of around 35 miles per hour, but it's really the impacts. The impacts of that are the quarter of a mile or less visibility for over 3 hours of time. So basically, long story short, in a blizzard warning, we're looking at wind speeds of around 35 miles per hour that lead to the reduced visibility, the near whiteout conditions of less than a quarter of a mile visibility for at least 3 hours.
Gotcha. And that doesn't necessarily mean that snow has to be coming down, right? It could just be that snow is already on the ground and blows around by the wind.
Right. And so with all of our winter weather warnings, really look at the impacts. So with the blizzard warning, the big impacts is that we have those near zero visibilities, like you can't see across the street. And to get that, you don't necessarily need to have like 2 or 3 or 4 inches of snow. It just takes, like an inch or two, maybe a little bit of snow that can cause that big problem. Then those impacts lead to obviously very bad traffic conditions and bad travel conditions. So again, blizzard warning, you don't need like half a foot of snow. You just need enough snow and enough winds to produce that visibility to where it's near whiteout conditions, then hazardous things happen travel-wise.
Okay, and I know that in your guys' weather briefing story, you mentioned that for this upcoming system on Friday to Saturday, it could be blizzard-like, so not necessarily a blizzard, but could have blizzard-like impacts. Could you explain to me why you all use the terminology blizzard-like instead of calling it maybe a blizzard?
Sure. So with all of our winter weather forecasts, what we really want to specify to the public is to focus on the impacts. Impacts. So Friday afternoon, Friday morning, we're looking at about 2 to 4 inches of snow in the Fox Valley, but that's going to be wetter, heavier type snow. During the evening, colder air is coming in. We're looking at about 2 to 4 inches of snow, so about the same amount of snow, but the impacts of that snow is going to be very different. During the evening, we're looking at temperatures getting down into the 20s, so we'll have the light, fluffier blowing snow, and we'll also increase winds up to 40, 45 miles per hour at that time. So same amount of snow, but the impacts will be incredibly different. And during the evening is when we're really keying on for that especially hazardous time, when you have all that light and fluffy snow blowing around in 40, 45 mile an hour winds, visibility could get down to near zero very quickly. And so if we were to issue a blizzard warning, that's kind of the time period that we're looking at as of right now.
Okay, and based on, your experience here and just in general for the Weather Forecast Office for Northeast Wisconsin, would you consider that more of our neighboring states out west, do they tend to have more blizzard conditions often than we do? And that obviously warrants road closures, highway closures, and infrastructure.
So the big difference in winter storm conditions in our area here in northeastern Wisconsin versus like Nebraska or South Dakota is the terrain. When you get out to the plain states, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, there's a lot more open, flatter fields. So the wind speeds there can really, if you get 30-mile-an-hour winds there, there's nothing to block the winds. So it makes visibility, getting down to that near whiteout conditions, much easier than up here, where you have lots of hills, lots of trees. So a lot of things that kind of block the winds, block the snow. So it mainly comes down to terrain differences. Here we have the trees and the hills. In the plain states, it's pretty flat and open, so it's much easier to get blizzard conditions way out west there.
Gotcha. Okay, and then is there maybe a more recent significant winter storm event that that we could recall maybe from within the last year or so?
Sure.
That could be similar to what we might be expecting this weekend.
Sure. So let's jump back to the event from this past Tuesday. So the event from this past Tuesday was kind of that wetter, heavier snow where we had temperatures in the low to mid 30s most of the day and like the snow was kind of wet. So again, going back to the Tuesday snow where we had wetter, heavier snow, we're expecting to see something like that Friday afternoon into a Friday morning. But it's going to be very different Friday evening when the colder temperatures move in. We are not going to see that wetter, heavier snow that we saw in the past Tuesday event. Instead, we're going to see like the light, fluffy, blowing snow. We're also going to add like 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts, which are stronger winds than that Tuesday event. So it might start out looking pretty similar, but by the end of the event, Friday evening into early Saturday morning, that's the time we're really concerned about. That's where I think the really hazardous travel impacts will happen. But they'll also happen in the morning too.
Yeah.
In the afternoon.
Okay. Perfect.